ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm here with our dear brother, Sheikh Adnan Rashid. We're just finishing up here the World Cup in Qatar. And alhamdulillah, I wanted to benefit from the du'at. We've been talking behind the scenes ourselves about some of our experiences, what we're doing on the ground. And I want to share those benefits with our brothers and sisters so they can benefit as well. And one of the things that really stood out to me when we were speaking together is the da'wah that IERA has going on in Africa. Some amazing numbers, amazing results. So I want to hear from you and let our brothers and sisters hear from you as well. Why this focus on the da'wah in Africa now? Because that wasn't there in IERA before. We're based in the UK and then in Europe, and then now we moved out to Africa. So why is the focus on Africa? What are the objectives and some of the results?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for inviting me for this interview, Sheikh. Africa is very important because it's very receptive to Islam. Generally speaking, sub-Saharan Africa is very open to Islam. People are receptive. They want to learn. They have been inviting us for decades. Every single city I go to, every single village I go to in Africa, people want to learn. They're not the type of people who will push you away. They're not the type of people who will tell you that we don't want to know the Muslims, we don't want to know about Islam, we have our ideas, we don't want to hear. It's not like that. To the contrary, they are very, very enthusiastic about learning new things. Africans are very curious about any new ideas because they are hungry for knowledge. And they are an amazing people, very friendly, very, very hospitable. Even though most Africans are poor in sub-Saharan Africa, when I say most, I mean the populations, the demographics. People mostly live in rural areas, they do farming and they depend on farming. So they are very hospitable, despite the fact that they live in, relative difficulty when it comes to food availability. But they are great people, and they're very, very happy to learn about Islam. So that's one of the reasons why we are in Africa, because they are receptive. They are very approaching and very encouraging as well. Secondly,
before you mention that, I want to know, because now I always like to dig into why.
Yeah, okay.
Why do you think they're more receptive?
I think they are upon fitrah. We have this concept of fitrah in Islam. Fitrah is basically when people are born upon the natural disposition. People have a belief in a higher power, a greater power, a supreme power, let's say, who created the universe. They live in nature. Yes, African landscape is absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. It's breathtaking. When you go through countries like Zambia, countries like Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, and South Africa, you see some amazing, absolutely amazing places. So people live in nature. So it is but natural for them to think of the Creator. So they believe in a Creator. You will struggle to find an atheist in Africa.
Yeah, subhanAllah, Allah Akbar.
Yeah, you will struggle to find an atheist in sub-Saharan Africa. So they believe in God. Their belief in God is very firm. You don't have to convince them about the existence of God, by the way. Okay, yeah. Mostly it's about the Prophet and the Quran. The discussion is about the Prophet and the Quran.
So what about any like wathaniya? You have like polytheists, because in my understanding of Africa, you have obviously we have a lot of Muslims, we also have a lot of Christians, a lot of polytheists who don't believe or have shirk in their worship, basically. But you're saying the belief is there that when it comes to God. So
yeah, they do believe in a higher power, even if they end up worshipping spirits, ancestors, what we call traditional ideas that pre-existed Christianity, before Christianity. Okay, the first religion to arrive in Africa was first monotheistic religion, let's say, was Islam. Okay, wow. Islam came
before Christianity.
Absolutely,
wow.
Way before Christianity. Yeah, one can talk about Ethiopia and Egypt. Okay, because Christianity was there before Islam, no doubt. But I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa in particular. I'm not talking about Northern Africa. Okay, Northern Africa was a very dynamic region. A lot was happening there. There was the Roman Empire. Then there was the Egyptian dynasties. Okay, all of that took place, and They had a lot of influences coming from the Middle East. The vicinity, the closeness to the Middle East brought in religions, for example. But sub-Saharan Africa was completely in darkness, in the sense that the rest of humanity wasn't actually aware what's there. It was only in the 18th century when people started to fully explore sub-Saharan Africa, and more so in the 19th century when some colonial agents, colonial officers, even missionaries ended up in Africa, to be precise, in the mid-19th century, mid-1850s. Okay, we have this very famous figure called David Livingstone, who was a British Christian missionary, who was also a colonial officer who was collecting information for the colonial establishment. And he was doing some missionary work as well. He failed as a missionary miserably, no doubt. He couldn't convert many Africans to Christianity, but he managed to collect a lot of information about the landscape of Africa. So Islam came very, very early to sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, Islam was there on the east coast of Africa, places like Kenya, Somalia, Tanzania. Okay, even as far as Mozambique. The country Mozambique is named after a man called Musa bin Baik, who was a Muslim.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's why it's called Mozambique, right? So Muslims had arrived in these regions way before many, other religions came. Even in South Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, Muslims came quite early. They came with the Dutch, no doubt. They came from Malay countries.
Yeah,
a lot of Malaysians were brought, current day Malaysians. I mean, what we know today as Malaysia, people came from there to the Cape of Good Hope. This is almost 400 years ago.
Yeah, I think they still keep a lot of their customs even till today.
Absolutely. You will still see the Malay people in Cape Town.
I heard they wear their izar. I haven't been to Cape Town yet. I've been to Johannesburg, and I've been to Durban and some other places there. Yeah. But I heard they still wear like their izars like they were back home. I don't know if you've been there now.
Yeah, absolutely. They are very, very similar to what we find in Malaysia.
Interesting.
The temperament is very similar. The way they practice their faith is very similar. They are much calmer than other Muslims from other parts of the world, right? So they have their beautiful qualities. So Cape Town is basically a hub of those Muslims who came in the 17th century, 1600s with the Dutch. The Dutch brought them as prisoners, and then they kept them there. And there are some saintly figures buried in Cape Town who came from that period. So a lot of people actually frequent those tombs, so to say, right? So Muslims did come quite early to Africa, and many people did accept Islam. Malawi was, until 100 years ago, a majority Muslim country. Over 80% of the Malawians were Muslim. Okay, Tanzania was predominantly Muslim. There were huge numbers of Muslims in Kenya, places like Kenya. And even in Central African countries, Islam had reached way before Christianity came. Christianity came with the colonial powers to sub-Saharan Africa. Prior to that, it were either Muslims or traditional religions.
Excellent. Very interesting. So the objectives of the Da'wah there, we talked a bit about the objectives earlier.
The objectives are, Sheikh, we're trying to share the message of Islam. Our objective basically is our vision. Our vision is the vision of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said that this deen, this matter will reach every single house on the planet Earth, whether that house is made of bricks, mud, or hair. That means every single hut, every single shack, every single mansion, Islam will enter. Okay, that's a global vision the Prophet ﷺ gave to the Muslims and his followers, and we're trying to fulfill that vision. We're trying to get the message of Islam, or take the message of Islam to every single house in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, so it's a global vision, and we are focused on Africa in particular. I mean, I'm talking about my team because I deal with Africa. There are other teams around the world working with IRA, okay, but I am focusing on Africa in particular. So the vision is that within the next 50 years, we want to be able to deliver the message of Islam to every single house, every single village, every single city, every single region, and every single country of sub-Saharan Africa. This is the vision. So it's a 50 years vision. Whether we live to see it or not is not important, but we will, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, by the grace of Allah, plant the seeds and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take care of it.
Excellent. I want to ask about these, like these group shahadas, because to be honest, I've always been very, not too sure about them. I've seen a lot of different sheikhs who travel from different places around the world, and they get these group shahadas. And me, honestly, believe in them 100%. Not that it's like a cheating thing that's happening, but how real are these shahadas and how real is the continuation? And but what made me kind of stop is when I saw that Ayero started to go. I see you in particular there. I said I know these guys. Okay, the other guys I haven't worked with them before. I might know some of them, but when I saw you there, I saw Ayero there, and I saw these group shahadas, so maybe something different. And you had told me something different about the program that Ayero that we have for after the shahada as well. So if you could tell us a bit about that. Because I think a lot of people might be skeptical, like, is this really what's happening in these big, groups entering Islam like that, or is there something else because of money or food or something like that?
Okay, let me tell you, firstly, sub-Saharan Africans are not Christian. They are not Christian. They may wear the badge, but they don't know anything about Christianity. I'm talking about the rural areas.
Okay.
When you go into a village in any country in sub-Saharan Africa, you ask them questions about basic Christian doctrines, they don't know about them. Okay. For example, I've experienced this myself. I went to a Malawian village. I asked the people, do you believe Jesus is God? They said unanimously, no, we don't believe Jesus is God. And that's a basic tenet of most Christian denominations. Protestants believe in that, Catholics believe in that, the Orthodox Christians, whether they are Russian, Greek, or Syrian, or any other Orthodox church for that matter, they all believe that Jesus is God, on par, equal with God the Father, the doctrine of the Trinity. So they don't understand the actual meaning of the Trinity. They don't know whether Jesus is God or not. They don't believe that, by the way. Their fitra, their disposition does not accept that a man can be God, let alone a European person, a European man, because the image of Jesus they have seen in the churches is a European image, because it came, Jesus they know came with the Europeans, right, with the colonial powers, right? So they cannot contemplate a human being to be God, right? But they say Jesus is the Son of God. When we ask them to explain, they don't know how to explain. They don't know how to, so they don't know much, right? This is why when we preach Islam to them, it makes perfect sense.
The fitra connects with the fitra. You mean,
exactly. The fitra is already there. They already have the belief in God, and they affirm it. They say, yeah, there is one God, okay, and He alone deserves to be worshipped, and there is no one else. No one else deserves to be worshipped because He's the creator, He's the sustainer, He's the provider. So He is the one we worship. The rest are His agents, prophets, right? So when we preach to them, they all accept, okay, and they raise their finger and they say the Shahada in huge numbers. The problem is, if we don't teach them Islam or the basics of Islam, they are not Muslims. They may take the Shahada, right, but they are not actually Muslim. They are as Muslim as they are Christian. You see my point?
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Christians are not teaching them. They're not bothered to teach them the details of Christianity. Partly due to the reason because they know they might not accept it. Because if they teach them Jesus is God, I am sure most sub-Saharan Africans will reject the idea. They will reject it. They will say, no, come on, hold on a second. This doesn't make sense. A human being cannot be God, right?
Exactly.
So maybe that's why the Christians are not very bothered to teach them the basics of Christianity. But we the Muslims, we don't have that problem. Our faith is very rational. It is very intellectually satisfying. It is easily understood, right? So we don't have any problems with that. We must teach these people how to live as Muslims. So what we have seen lately in the last few decades, a lot of people go into African villages, they get these mass shahadas, 1,000 people, 500 people accept Islam, and everyone gets excited.
Exactly.
People think, oh, this is great. And they think Shahada is the outcome. It is the end. Okay, it's not a means. In fact, in reality, Shahada is the means to an end. The end is to make them good Muslims, practicing Muslims, so that they can enter Jannah. That's the end, right? So that they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they do the Shahada and they're not worshipping, what Shahada? It doesn't mean anything. It's just a numbers game. So IERA realized the problem as an organization. We went there and we saw that this is happening. A lot of Muslims are coming into these villages. They are getting these Shahadas, right? They distribute meat or clothing or something like that, and they just go away. Leave these poor people without any basic knowledge. So we decided that it's either numbers or quality. What do we want? We want big numbers and have no quality. I mean, they are hardly Muslim. They don't know anything about Islam. Or we focus on quality and try to get more numbers at the same time.
That's important, and people understand that. I know last year on IERA we have online and on the ground more than 50,000 shahadas.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know exactly how many in Africa from those 50,000.
Majority of them came from Africa.
So that's the huge number. And we could have double or triple or quadruple those numbers if it was just to go in and preach for a day or two and give some hadiyah, give some gift and some assistance to them, and then get them to make the shahada. We could have 200,000. And by the way, and if people are talking about this for numbers games, that makes us look fantastic.
Yes.
You know, it looks like, wow, what should I say? 50,000 is impressive. But if you come with like 200,000, 250,000, $500,000 a year, people are like, well, these guys are amazing.
And it's very possible, Sheikh.
It's very possible, yeah.
Sheikh Abdulrahim, it's very possible. In Africa, 500,000 shahadas a year, it's very possible. I mean, if we have the right number of people going into villages, they will get 500,000 shahadas. But are they actually shahadas? Are they real? When I say they are real, people are saying the Shahada, they are raising their fingers and they're saying, Ashhadu
they're believing it when they say it.
Yeah, exactly.
But acting upon it later is the problem.
Exactly. Sometimes they may not fully appreciate the meaning of what they're saying, right? Because this is the first time they've been exposed to Islam, right? By the way, there are millions of Africans, millions upon millions in sub-Saharan Africa who haven't been exposed to Islam. They have no idea what Islam is. Sometimes when we go to villages, because these villages are very remote, people don't usually come out to main cities as well. They think, hold on a second, what is this new idea? But because they have the fitrah, they have the natural disposition to believe in one supreme deity, they find it very interesting. They find it very easy to accept, right? So with people like this, when you give them the Shahada and leave them, it is not a Shahada, okay? Because it doesn't fulfill the purpose of the Shahada. The Shahada says, La ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There is no one worthy of worship except Allah. But if they're not worshipping, they're not believing in it, right? So our focus is, when we go into a village, let's say 70, 80, 50, 60 people accept Islam, we leave our teachers with them.
Allahu Akbar. So this is the difference now.
100%. This is where the difference comes in now. So we have a retention program. Excellent. We call it Shahadas with retention.
This is the hard work, honestly. The Dawah is the easy part, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And we are following the prophetic model. We're not inventing things. We're not coming up with new ideas. The Prophet ﷺ sent teachers to new Muslims.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mus'ab bin Umair was sent to Medina. Muaz bin Jabal was sent to Yemen. We have examples from the Prophet ﷺ.
Even the Qur'an that he sent out, the ones who were killed, he sent out to teach the new Muslims.
Exactly. And these killings later on caused the conflict, right? So the idea is to send teachers. Why was the Prophet doing it? Because he understood the meaning and the importance of teaching new Muslims. If you don't teach them, then out of their confusion or their lack of knowledge, they might even reject. Later on, they might even go back to their old ways.
That's what's happening around the world, because we haven't focused, and that's why I was so happy to hear this part of the Dawah. I mean, that, for me, that was more powerful, more beneficial than the issue of the amount of people who are accepting Islam, because we have big numbers even in the West and around the world. You know, but like IERA, so we have 40-50%. We say, even I found one person in the UK, another center said up to 80% they leave. They don't stay firm on the religion. That's because, you know, they don't have that atmosphere, the retention program to stay in Islam. And if you look in early Islam, Dar al-Arqam ibn al-Arqam, that was there for that reason.
Exactly.
As soon as they would accept Islam, they would go there, they would learn the basics, they'd be in that atmosphere in order to, you know, stay firm.
And imagine if the Prophet wasn't teaching there. Would he have any followers? Absolutely. These people would be so weak, they wouldn't support the Prophet ﷺ. Exactly. They wouldn't stand with him, right? Because they understood the Aqidah of Islam. They had firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They had belief in Jannah and Jahannam. That's why they stood with the Prophet ﷺ. They loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They hoped from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ammar bin Yasir and his wife, they wouldn't be giving their lives away for an idea they didn't appreciate, right? So this is why the idea is retention is very important. Retention is basically results, okay? Shahada is not the result. What follows after the Shahada is basically what we call the results, right? So we have 3 stages. How do we do retention? Okay, when a village accepts Islam, let's say 70, 80 people on average accept Islam in a village.
Usually in the villages, it's usually the entire village, or could you see some of them in the village?
No, sometimes it's the majority that accept Islam, sometimes it's 10 people out of 100, sometimes it's 50, 60. So our average is about 60 to 70% people accept Islam, and majority are women. Majority are women with children, okay? They accept Islam, right? So what happens is after they accept Islam, we leave our teachers with them for at least 1 month. For the whole month, we have a curriculum they go through. Okay, they start with the Aqidah, basic beliefs of Islam, oneness of Allah, the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his basic seerah. Then they go through some parts of the Quran. They memorize Al-Fatiha. Okay, 1 verse a day. They start with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I've seen this with my own eyes, Sheikh, because I'm there very often. I have to monitor, I have to be there on the ground every month, almost every single month. I have to be in Africa. And I go to the villages and I see those new Muslims reading Al-Fatiha. You know, I cannot describe the energy that you know goes through your mind and your body. That gives us the motivation. When we see this, we see the achievement of Islam and Muslims and Da'wah, basically. Allahu Akbar. It's very, very encouraging, very, very motivating, right? So we see these. You
inspire me. I'm supposed to be going with you soon, inshallah. I'm getting more inspired.
You wait until you see it. You wait until you see it, inshallah, because words cannot describe that feeling, okay? Even Sheikh Green, Abdalrahim Green, who's the chairman of this organization, okay, I was insisting that he comes and sees this. Okay, he had heard the stories. He had some wonderful stories of people converting, people leaving. I mean, there is a chief. A chief is like the leader of the village or the area. Okay, there was a chief who accepted, and he had a lot of pigs. He had a lot of pigs he had kept, right? He gave them away. As soon as he accepted Islam, he was told, well, this is haram. This animal is haram in Islam. He said, okay. He just gave them away. So we have stories, I mean, and these are very poor people, by the way. Yes, he's a chief, but he's not like a chief in a well-to-do country. It's a poor country, right? So he gave away his pigs for free. I mean, he didn't want to keep them. So he said, anyone, those Christians who want to take them, but I cannot keep them anymore, right? So the point is...
so the first thing is to teach them the month program.
Yeah, so the retention program goes as follows. We have 3 stages. The first stage is minimum 1 month teaching. Sometimes that's increased to 2 months depending on the demand and the requirements. Sometimes the villages, they say, look, can you please leave them for longer because we need to understand more, we want to learn more. So it could be up to 2 to 3 months, but minimum is 1 month, okay? And in that time, our teachers, they teach for 21 days and they go away for a week to spend with their families, and they come back for another 21 days, right? So we take care of our teachers as well. People who are staying in these villages, actually they live with the people. They live in villages while they're teaching them. They don't go away, right? So they are trying to keep up the salah as well in the masajid. They're inviting people, come and pray with us, new Muslims basically. Then the second stage is basically, from these very villages, we handpick intelligent boys, youngsters, who are basically sometimes teenagers or sometimes older, right? Who are sharp, very intelligent, and they're paying attention. Good performers, let's say, right? So we take them to a separate vicinity and we put them through a program. We call it the Imam Training Program. Why we do this is because these youngsters are from the village. and they're going to live in that village for the rest of their lives. Okay, so it's very important to take someone from the village rather than planting someone from outside.
Exactly.
We can easily do that. We can bring an imam from outside, but that brings problems because people don't know the imam. The imam may come from a different region, speaking different dialect, different tribe, or things like that. Yeah. So we take these youngsters, we train them for at least 6 months. So there is a 6 months program. In this 6 months, they go through the memorization of the Quran. They learn basically all the basics of being an imam, how to lead the janazah, how to do the nikah, how to lead the Eid prayer, Jummah prayer, or establishing Islam, teaching children the Quran, at the same time making sure that they continue with the da'wah. So each and every single one of these new Muslim imams, when they are going back to the villages, they have to continue doing da'wah. Okay, they have to encourage. So that's the second stage. The third stage is the institutionalization of our da'wah. Okay, so we might put a madrasa, a school, okay, strategically chosen spot somewhere in between 5 to 10 villages, let's say, because we can't build a madrasa, a school for every single village, right? So it has to be done strategically. So we put an important institution in the middle of 5 to 10 villages where children can actually approach from different sides, right? So they come and they study. And this is for the children, for the future generation, because you can't ignore the children. Yeah, exactly. They are the future, right? So this is what we call a 3-stage retention program. Okay, so we're working on the parents, we're working on the children, we are working on the durability of the work we are doing by planting the imams, or actually bringing the imams to the village, from the village, so that this work continues. That gives us the confidence that these people will remain Muslim. They will not leave Islam for something else.
You mentioned something as well when we were talking about working with some charities as well to make sure that they have the basic necessities, and that continues as well. So I are working from the Dawah aspect, and then the charity organizations working and supporting them as well. So they'll have their basic means, so they can focus on their iman, especially in the beginning, or empowering some of them as well.
That's right. What we do is we focus on the education part, and the empowerment part is basically given to our sister charities or organizations that focus on humanitarian work. IRA is an education basically establishment. We educate people, right? But other charities, they may be dealing with boreholes, masajid, irrigation projects, for example, helping people live better lives by doing micro business plans, things like that. So empowerment comes from other charities, other institutions, and other organizations. We don't deal with that. So when we see the need of empowerment, we get in touch with our sister organizations and we tell them, can you please come and take care of this? If a village needs water, we try to organize that for that village. That wins the hearts of the people. People become very, very thankful. They are grateful for the help they may be receiving.
It falls into several forms of zakat, 3, maybe 4 of different forms of zakat.
Absolutely. The Prophet did this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The Prophet ﷺ took care of new Muslims when he saw that there are people who are poor. He started to help them out.
And that's a great opportunity for the charity organizations, because they know now it's a trusted area, because a lot of areas you can go to in Africa, as you know, and it causes more sometimes, and I would say more harm than good, but not really, the true benefit is not being reached. But people who are truly going to benefit and from that charity and help them build and empower. So you're also empowering the nation as well, where you're giving the dawah.
Exactly. So it is a coordinated effort. We coordinate with our partners, our like-minded organizations, who also have focus on dawah, because they want to do humanitarian work, but they cannot do dawah because that's not their focus.
Exactly.
So they would rather do the empowerment. So we get them to do it. And the idea is, Sheikh, a lot of Christian institutions and churches and establishments are doing the same thing. So why would the Muslims not do it?
Exactly.
Okay, because legally speaking, it's open. We can do it. Okay, the laws allow us, the constitutions of the countries we're working in allow us. We work within the legal framework. We have local partners, we have local supporters. Even sometimes government officials are very happy when they see the work. They see the education, they see the the fact that people are living better lives. They see that alcohol problem has gone away, okay, because Islam, gradually eradicates that problem. It's one of the biggest problems. Alcohol consumption, okay, binge drinking is one of the biggest problems in sub-Saharan Africa. Mostly to do with men. A
lot of places around the world, even in Europe. Anyway, we talked to our local police in Ireland, for example. Most of the crimes is alcohol related as well.
But because those countries are relatively prosperous, it doesn't really impact them economically. But in Africa, it has economic implications. Families are destroyed because if the man is drunk, the mother is left with children with nothing, right? So it's a big problem. So Islam resolves that problem. So some of the authorities are very happy about it. They are very open to the idea that if people become better people, if they're living better lives, and they are happier, why not? So it's Muslims need to be more active, and we need to take it seriously.
Excellent. I want to ask about, we have about 11 countries now in Africa we're working. The main ones are probably 4.
Yes.
We look at the numbers: Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda.
Yes.
So I see that, and when I've talked to you a lot from the past couple of months, or even a year perhaps, that you've been mentioning Malawi a lot.
Yes.
So tell us why Malawi, and look at the numbers of the du'at that we have there and what we have going on the grounds. Huge numbers, mashallah.
Because Malawi is very special. Malawi was a majority Muslim country nearly 100 years ago. Now it's 70-30. 70% Christian, 30% Muslim. And people still have Muslim names, but they go to churches. So we're trying to teach them that you come from...
How did that happen historically?
It happened during the colonial period, when colonial powers came in particular, in this case, the British. They came in with their military might, their colonial might, and they brought missionaries in. The missionaries were very clever. They used the resources of the country to build schools and hospitals, and through schools and hospitals they effectively turned the entire country Christian, if not all of it, but at least most of it. Okay, some parts are still very much resisting. Alhamdulillah, in southern Malawi, Muslim presence is very strong, but this is how colonial powers basically changed the demographics of the country as far as religion is concerned. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to explain to these once upon a time Muslims that Islam is your original religion, and they are accepting it in big numbers. So that's why our attention in Malawi is very strong. We are focusing on Malawi because we feel that Malawians are still very much Muslim. Okay, even though they may not realize it, but they're still very much Muslim. They don't have any attachment to the church. When Islam is presented to them, they accept it wholeheartedly and happily. They're very happy about it. Sheikh, sometimes we run out of hijabs. There are women, when they accept, they're not playing around. They're not playing games. When they accept Islam, some of these ladies, they come to us straight away. Can we get hijabs? We want to wear hijabs. We want to show the world that we are Muslims. We want to celebrate this identity. This is how strong they are. I'll tell you a story very quickly. This was a while back, a few years ago. I was in Malawi and we did some public da'wah. There was a sister, she accepted Islam. She heard the da'wah, there and then on the spot, she took the Shahada, right? So the next day we planned a new Muslim class for them. And their details were taken, they were contacted, and they were told they were sent the location. They were basically sent texts with the location, and they came. Then the class had started, and 2 hours later this sister turns up. So we asked her, why are you late? She said she went back home after taking a Shahada. Her husband told her, it's either me or Islam. She said, well, I will choose Islam.
Wow, first day, huh?
Yes, first day.
Allahu Akbar.
I'll choose Islam. It's the truth. She said, I have no doubts that it's the truth. So he said, okay, then go ahead, be Muslim, but I'm not going to give you my money to travel to go and learn about Islam. So she said she walked for 2 hours.
Allah Akbar. Allah.
She walked for 2 hours to that new Muslim class because she didn't have the money to travel. We have this on video, by the way. We have this on video, the interview of the sister. So these are the kind of people we're dealing with. Okay, they're serious. They're not joking. They're not taking it lightly. So when they accept Islam, they come wholeheartedly. That's why Malawi is very special. People are very passionate. They are very, very, very nice people, very humble, very welcoming, okay, and grateful, most importantly, very, very grateful for the knowledge they receive from us. So that's why our attention is on Malawi, more so than other countries, alhamdulillah, and we want to ensure that in the next 25 years, the message of Islam is clearly delivered to most Malawians, if not all, inshallah.
Is there any other country out of the 11 that really sticks out to you as well, one or two?
I would say Rwanda.
Rwanda, yeah.
Rwanda is also a very special case, mostly due to the history of Rwanda. If you recall, in 1990s there was a genocide, a very unfortunate incident or event that took place in Rwanda. Within 100 days, 1 million people were killed, and that's basically on average 10,000 people every single day.
Wow.
Hacked to death by machetes. Okay, 2 tribes fought each other, and one was basically supported by some, I mean, don't want to make this political, but there was a lot of controversy about the involvement of the church in this genocide. So people feel very bitter towards the church, in this case the Catholic Church, right? So one tribe kind of nearly annihilated another tribe. The Hutus and the Tutsis were 2 tribes, and Tutsis were killed in large numbers. Okay, so that left a very bitter taste in people's memories. And Muslims at that time were 2% in the country, a very timid, small minority, okay, almost irrelevant when it comes to the politics of the country, okay, but they played a very positive role. Even though the numbers of the Muslims are very small, Muslims are saving lives by hiding people in the masjids, and Muslims, whether they were Hutu or Tutsi, did not become a party to the genocide. So it became very clear to the Rwandese people that it was Islam that prevented the Muslim Rwandese from getting involved in the genocide, because Muslims came from both backgrounds. Hutus, there were Hutus who were Muslims, and there were Tutsi who were Muslims, right? But they did not become a party to the genocide. They didn't take part because it was their faith that prevented them. On the other hand, the Catholic Church did not or could not prevent the genocide from taking place. So that 2% has become now 20%. Okay? Since the last 28 years, let's say, since 1994 when the genocide took place, from 2% of the Muslims have become 20%. And this is without any aggressive dawah to the people. Why? People were looking for alternatives. People had realized that this cannot be the solution. This cannot be the right thing for Rwanda. Okay, so they were looking for alternative solutions, right? They found Islam. Many of them have personally studied and they have accepted Islam. So Rwanda is very, very, again, receptive like Malawi, due to the unique history of the country. A lot of people, when we go to villages, we preach to them, they say, this is it. This is what we need. And you know, the president of the country, Paul Kagame, has said on record that if my people were Muslims, the genocide would not have taken place.
Allah Akbar, mashallah.
This is what he said on record.
Mashallah.
Okay, and he said many, many other things about Muslims positively. So he's a very progressive president. He has turned the country around in the last 20 years.
You haven't heard the infrastructure and stuff. It's amazing there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Black Panther, Wakanda. Okay, if you go to Rwanda, you see an upcoming Wakanda. Okay, Qatar is very much involved in Rwanda. The development, the airport, the new airport is being built by the help of. I don't know what the role of Qatar is in the country, but Qatar is very much involved in helping Rwanda develop further, and it's a very big. How can I put it? It's an upcoming powerful economy. It's an upcoming power. If I would say if there is a case for Black Africa to be as advanced and as able as any other country in the world to make progress and you know, gain prominence and influence, Rwanda would be that.
That's
country.
amazing. That's amazing.
Rwanda would be that. It's purely an achievement of the Rwandese people,
MashaAllah.
led by their president Paul Kagame.
MashaAllah.
Okay, so it's a very good case of success and advancement. So it's a very good country. And when it comes to Islam, people are very open, and alhamdulillah, we're trying our best to present as good case of Islam as possible. Inshallah.
Before we end the interview, if the brothers and sisters have been inspired like I have, and that's why I actually wanted to talk about this. We have so much to talk about, but I said let's just talk about Africa in this session. How can brothers and sisters get involved? What can they do if they, to support the da'wah there, inshallah?
Most importantly, dua. Sincere dua. Dua from their hearts. When they pray, make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this effort and put blessings in it. Okay, make it grow stronger and stronger from strength to strength, inshallah. That's first thing. The second thing is get involved physically. Okay, we don't. A lot of people think by giving money they basically do their responsibility. This is it. This is what I. The best thing would be when people actually themselves pack their bags and travel to Africa and join us in the villages as volunteers. Okay, and we can help that happen. We can make that happen. How? We can organize teams of volunteers who can visit different countries at different times. You know, we have a very good system to follow, the Tabligh system, right? Tabligh have a very good system. We can adopt a lot of ideas. Okay. When it comes to the strategy and the methodology, right? I'm talking specifically about the strategy and the methodology. We can use it and apply it to non-Muslims.
Khuruj, but here a khuruj to give da'wah to non-Muslims.
Exactly. Giving da'wah to non-Muslims and then empowering new Muslims.
Excellent.
The focus is the new Muslims, right? So we need volunteers to go and live in these villages for, let's say, 2 weeks or 10 days or maybe 3 weeks, whatever time you have available. Go and live in these villages to encourage the new Muslims. When they see these Muslims coming from Britain, from Qatar, from Germany, from Canada, from the US, they will think, wow, we have a family.
You know, and that's what I was going to point out, is that, and I was going to point out two things for the brothers and sisters. First of all, the Christian missionaries do this and they stay there for years.
Absolutely.
We're only asking for a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Okay, they do it, and so if they can do it for what they have from falsehood, we can do what we have from the haqq and from
Sheikh, they dedicate their lives. I have seen planes filled with Christian missionaries going to Malawi. Why? What are they doing there? Okay, they go and live in these villages.
Exactly.
They take their families there. I've seen families from Canada, from the US, Christian missionaries heading out to places like Malawi and Tanzania and Uganda. Why? Because they feel passion for their faith. Okay, so we the Muslims who always claim to have the haqq, and we feel very passionate about our faith.
Exactly.
This is the real work.
That's it.
Come and do some real work. Okay, everyone can go for Hajj. We can fast in the month of Ramadan. We can pray Salah in our cozy, comfortable, environments. But when it comes to getting your feet dusty, I mean, and it's not. Come on, we're not living in the 7th century or in the 10th century anymore. Everything is available. You have clean drinking water. You'll actually have the time of your life. Seriously, because you'll enjoy the bonfires. You will enjoy the discussions.
When I was in Uganda, I actually went with my wife. We went there, and we're doing some humanitarian work. I haven't been there for da'wah yet. Hopefully soon, inshallah, we'll go. But it was amazing, just the beauty of the country, the natural scenery. And I'm looking up in these mountains with the trees and how green it is.
Yes.
I said, I could have a house here, just sit back and chill.
It's out of this
the
world.
peace, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
So peaceful. It's so amazing. Malawi, there are places in Malawi that you go there and you don't want to leave.
Mashallah, amazing.
You want to sit there and just it reminds you of Allah. Those mountains, those trees, that landscape, the nature, the beautiful people. So I invite the Muslims to join us personally, physically. Okay. Then the third option is that if you can't join us physically for whatever reason, okay, help us. Help us. Help us raise the standard or raise the flag, as they say, and help us continue this work, inshallah ta'ala.
And we can put it inshallah down low in the comment section, inshallah. A link, inshallah, where people, if they want to donate or get involved, inshallah ta'ala, they can do that, inshallah ta'ala. And the second thing, before we end, I was going to mention, the first thing is actually, we said going there and doing it, because the people of falsehood and batil, they do it, so we should be the ones first of all. And secondly, what you mentioned, the impact. when they see, brothers and sisters coming from the UK, we've seen this from a humanitarian, especially from the Muslims, like the Syrian and what have you, when they see their Muslim brothers and sisters coming from the US, coming from the UK, coming from Canada, from Australia, they see that it has such a huge impact. Exactly. So also these new Muslims who live in the village, and they see their Muslim brothers and coming, and they're saying, why are you coming? I said, we just came 2 weeks to spend time with you for our vacation.
Absolutely.
We heard that you 60 of our brothers and sisters accepted Islam, so we wanted to help you out, and we just want to be with you and experience it. That's going to be very, very powerful, and keeping them firm, inshallah.
It's going to be powerful for the people who are visiting. It's going to be powerful for the people who are living in these villages, right? So it's going to have double the effect.
Exactly.
Okay, it impacts the people who are there on the ground, and it impacts the people who are traveling to them. So both ways it works in our favor.
MashaAllah. Okay. Jazakallah khair, Habib.
Barakallah feek.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're very busy, about to travel. We've been very busy here on the Dawah, but I want to share this experience with our brothers and sisters, and hopefully, inshallah, this will inspire them as well to get involved, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Barakallah feek. Assalamu alaikum.
ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين.